someone is talking to you, you're looking right at them, nodding at the right moments, and suddenly you realize you have absolutely no idea what they just said. Your mind just drifted somewhere else without asking for permission. And the weird part is, you didn't even notice when it happened. One moment you were there, and the next moment your brain quietly left the room without telling you. Most people assume that zoning out during conversations means you're rude, distracted, or not interested. But psychologically, it's usually not about the other person at all. In fact, people who zone out a lot often have very active minds, very imaginative thinking, and sometimes even higher levels of internal processing than average. Their brain simply finds it very easy to switch from the outside world to the inside world. Imagine your attention like a spotlight on a stage. For some people, that spotlight is very steady. It stays on the person talking, on the conversation, on the moment. But for other people, the spotlight keeps moving. It suddenly shines on a random memory from 5 years ago, then on a future scenario that might never happen, then on an idea, a worry, a plan, a song stuck in your head. The conversation is still happening, but the spotlight is somewhere else. Your brain is not designed to stay perfectly focused all the time. Neuroscientists talk about something called the default mode network, which is basically the brain system that becomes active when you're not focused on the outside world. This is the part of the brain responsible for daydreaming, imagining the future, replaying the past, thinking about yourself, and creating stories in your head. When you zone out during a conversation, your brain often switches from the attention network to this default mode network without you even realizing it. And here's something interesting. Studies have shown that people spend almost half of their waking life thinking about something other than what they are currently doing. So if you zone out during conversations sometimes, you're not broken. You're actually very human. But the reason you zone out can be very different depending on the person. Sometimes it happens because the conversation is predictable. Your brain already knows where the story is going, so it starts thinking about something else. Sometimes it happens because you're overwhelmed, stressed, or tired, and your brain is basically taking a tiny mental break. And sometimes it happens because one sentence triggers a thought, and that thought triggers another thought, and suddenly you're 10 thoughts away from the conversation. It's like someone says, "I went to Italy last summer," and suddenly your brain goes from Italy to pizza, to that restaurant you went to last year, to that friend you went with, to that embarrassing thing you said, to why do you still think about that, to you should text that friend, to oh no, that assignment, to wait, what are they talking about right now? And just like that, you're gone. People who zone out a lot are often very associative thinkers. Their mind works like a web where one idea connects to another very quickly. This can make them creative, reflective, and good at seeing connections between things. But it can also make it harder to stay in linear conversations where one topic is discussed slowly for a long time. There's also an emotional side to zoning out. Sometimes people drift away mentally not because they're bored, but because they're uncomfortable, anxious, or overthinking how they're being perceived. Instead of listening, their mind starts running a different conversation inside their head. Am I responding correctly? Do I look interested? What should I say next? Did that sound stupid? And while that internal conversation is happening, the external conversation keeps moving without them. So ironically, some people zone out not because they don't care, but because they care too much. And then there's another type of zoning out that is actually very philosophical. Some people just naturally live a lot inside their own thoughts. They observe, they imagine, they replay conversations, they analyze life, they think about the future, the past, the meaning of things. For them, the inside world is sometimes more interesting than the outside world, not because reality is bad, but because their mind is very rich and very busy. If you think about it, zoning out is basically your brain saying, "Hold on, I want to think about something for a moment." It's a reminder that you are not just reacting to the world, you are also constantly creating a world inside your head. Of course, if it happens all the time, it can make relationships and communication harder. People might think you're not listening or that you don't care, even if that's not true at all. But understanding why it happens changes the way you see it. Instead of thinking, "What's wrong with me?" you can start thinking, "My brain just likes to wander." And a wandering mind is not always a bad thing. Some of the most creative ideas, life decisions, and personal realizations happen when the mind drifts a little bit away from the present moment and starts connecting things in new ways. So the next time you catch yourself zoning out in the middle of a conversation and suddenly coming back like you just returned from another dimension, don't immediately judge yourself too harshly. Your brain didn't leave because you're lazy or rude. It probably left because it was thinking, imagining, worrying, planning, remembering, or trying to understand something about your life. And maybe the real goal isn't to never zone out. Maybe the goal is just to notice when your mind leaves, gently bring it back, and understand that inside your head is a whole universe of thoughts constantly moving. If you relate to this, you're definitely not the only one. I'd actually be really curious to know what you usually think about when you zone out during conversations. So let me know about that down in the comments. And if you enjoy these kinds of psychology videos that explain the strange things our minds do, maybe subscribe and stick around, because there's a lot more you need to know about your brain that most people never talk about.